prayer as we always do. So we're going to ask Mr. Ken Kuntz, would he give us a word of prayer?
I think the term Emmanuel means God with us. And I suppose there's God with each of us. And so when I pray, I also appeal to the God in you, as well as expressing the God in me. So with that, we shall go to God. God, may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart be acceptable in your sight. Teach us, Lord, how to love. Teach us, Lord, how to be thankful. And teach us, Lord, how to ever be present with you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. Okay. This morning, we have Trees Charlotte here with us. We have Ms. Allison Rhodes, who is the Executive Director. We have Joi Mayo, the Community Engagement Manager, and Ms. Heather Brent, Certified Arborist, Urban Forest Educator. We are so excited to have them with us. They're going to give us their presentation, and then we're going to take questions from the audience. And just so that you know that I will call on, they'll raise their hand, and I will call on them in the order that they raise their hand. We ask for you to, thank you, Ken. We ask for you to keep your question, reasonably short, with maybe about 30 seconds, and then we ask you to give an answer also. Okay, is there anything else? We do have, we're going to say this announcement before we begin, because every year we have a Christmas party, and all of you are invited to our Christmas party, and Natalie is going to tell you about it.
Good morning, good morning. We have a day that we set aside to do nothing but fun, and that's our Christmas party. We don't have to have any knowledge, we don't have to know anything about what's going on. You just need to know how to come and have fun. We've been doing this for many, many, many years. Everybody in here has been with this organization for at least 20 years. We want to have a big party this year. Our numbers after the pandemic have dwindled from what it used to be. But for the party, we want to see everybody come back. We have a staunch supporter in Smudgy Mitchell, provides the breakfast, so we will have a full breakfast for Christmas. We want to see the mayor come back. Our previous mayor was here, she said she will be back. We want to see all of our elected officials show up this year, and some of the good old timers, people that used to come every Tuesday and don't come anymore. One day we want not to be, we will be live streaming, but we want you to come in here and see what's going on. We are going to be doing the same take a gift game. If you don't know what that is, it doesn't matter, it's fun. We ask everybody that wants to bring an unwrapped gift, because every game we play has gifts provided. But we want them unwrapped because we put them out and people select their gifts. So I always say, if you've got something that Aunt Tilly gave you, you never really liked it, but it's in good condition, tell her you donated it. She'll be glad. So bring something. You can bring large gifts, small gifts, but if every person brings something, then everybody does get a gift. It's on the 17th of December, and that'll be our final meeting before the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to begin, and I'm not sure who's going to be first. I guess Allison will be first. Okay.
Okay. So, hi. Is it on? Oh, yep, it is. Hi. Do I just take that? Okay. Hi. Thank you all so much for coming. My name is Allison Rhodes. I should stand up. And I am the Executive Director of Trees Charlotte. I just started with Trees Charlotte on September 16th. So bear with me if I stumble through things because I'm still in my learning phase. So we're here today to talk about the state of our canopy. Years ago, the city of Charlotte set a goal of having a 50% tree canopy by 2050. We are currently at around 46 to 47%, which sounds fantastic, but obviously between age and disease of trees and development, that is decreasing as we speak. So Trees Charlotte's mission is to help increase that tree canopy. And so what we are is we are a nonprofit, and that is our mission to steward and diversify our iconic urban forest. We do this with our trained volunteers. We actually have a few here. We have some tree masters here today, so I'm thrilled they came out. They come and help us plant every Saturday in planting season, which runs from early October until April. We are planting in the community. We do tree plantings, we do tree adoptions, we do tree care for mature trees, and then we do educational events and outreach like this one. Our adoptions, actually, I'll give a shout out. I think we're sold out today, but it is Giving Tuesday. Today is Giving Tuesday, so if you have a nonprofit you want to give to, feel free to give to us. We welcome that. I'll also give a plug for WFAE because I heard it this morning. If you donate to you can donate to WFAE, and if you recommend a nonprofit, they're going to give $1,500 in advertising. So 2 different organizations you can give to benefit for Giving Tuesday. But for our Giving Tuesday, we are giving away trees. So we have a Giving Tuesday tree adoption this evening at the Abbott Exchange. It's just a drive-through. We're giving away 1 to 3 gallon trees. Is that right? Okay. Yeah, I believe it's sold out, but you can always check online to see. But then we have an adoption week after next on Saturday the 14th. I think that one opens to the public next week. So if you live in the city of Charlotte and you're in need of trees, register to get 2 free trees and 2 bags of mulch. And then we'll have another adoption in January. We can go to the next slide. So we are a small but mighty team. There are 9 of us. So I have Heather here with us. She is one of our certified arborists on staff. We have 2, and then she also does our urban forest education. And Joi is with us, who is our community engagement manager. And then Joi also heads up our Tree Resilience Initiative, which is to help work in those underserved, under-canopied areas to do mature canopy care and to do tree plantings. We also have other people on the list. Alex Smith is another urban forest educator we have, and our manager, and he is also an arborist. Cameron is a community engagement coordinator. Christian, if any of you volunteer at our events, you get emails from him. We have a lot, because we have plantings every Saturday and we have plantings during the week. We have a lot of events that require a lot of volunteers, and he helps to coordinate all that. And then on the previous slide that I went too fast is Heike Biller. She has been with us, I think, over 10 years now, since inception. So she is our font of knowledge at Trees Charlotte. She's our business director. Kristen is our director of programs, and Beth is our development manager, and then Mara is our latest hire. She is our social media coordinator and community engagement, marketing engagement. So we are a small team, but we work really hard trying to increase our mission of stewarding our iconic forest. And now I'm going to turn it over to Heather, because she's going to tell you all about urban trees and all of the things that they provide. Hi, is this on? All right. I guess I should stand as well.
It does seem a little weird sitting. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us here. We're delighted to be here. I know we have a lot of our volunteers here, so I know you guys love trees. Anybody else love trees? I think you New Zealanders love trees, I know. Well, I hope that anyone else who's listening, if you aren't already saying you love trees, I hope that you will love trees after you listen to our presentation. So I could give an entire presentation on the benefits of trees, and there are so many. So this slide right here captures some of these. So for starters, trees clean our air. They literally take particulates in the form of pollution out of the air. And areas with high tree density have lower asthma rates. And on the flip side, areas with low tree cover tend to have higher asthma rates. Trees are literally cleaning the air that we breathe. They are saving us energy, they're cooling us down. So trees can cool us by 20 degrees in the air temperature. And you know this when you go stand in the summertime, you stand underneath a tree versus standing in like a hot parking lot. Exactly. The surface temperature is even more of a difference. So it can be 40 degrees difference, 40 degrees Fahrenheit between a tree-covered area and a non-tree covered area. So that's huge. There's also water runoff. And Hurricane Helene just happened. We get some really bad storms here. Did you know that trees help mitigate stormwater? Those roots absorb the water and hold the soil in place and keep flooding from being so bad. The leaves themselves even slow down the raindrops so that they're not falling on the earth so hard to get the momentum in a storm. So trees are helping us and help mitigating floods, help absorbing stormwater. In areas where there's been deforestation, they will often experience flooding and droughts where the land gets dehydrated. So trees are helping to keep the land kind of stable. It's absorbing water, it's absorbing carbon, it's keeping the land stable. Trees provide habitat for so many different species. If you don't love trees, do you like animals? Do you like birds? A lot of people like birds. So if you like birds, you need trees. Birds are providing habitat. They are also providing the food source for the birds, as well as a food source for the insects. You might not like bugs, but they are food for the birds. So you need these bugs because we need to feed our birds. Trees also help improve our mental health. So we have studies that now prove what we all know. If you go for a walk in the woods, it lowers your blood pressure, it lowers your stress. It can even help lower your heart rate. So if you go for a walk in the woods, it can calm us down. And trees slow people down. There are also studies that show that the cars that are driving through tree-lined streets will slow down an average of 6 to 8 miles per hour than the streets with just wide open. People feel like that's just, I don't know, a big highway, so they want to go faster. So they're not even sure why, but maybe it just closes it in and makes people slow down a little bit. And if you don't care about any of those things, trees increase property values. So it's a fact that houses with trees around them, they look prettier. And people might not even realize what it is they like about it. But that increases their property values. So there's so many benefits to trees. And we're very lucky in Charlotte that we have a really solid tree canopy. I just got back from a conference with other communities. It's a community forestry conference. And a lot of cities have a pretty low canopy. So we have something special here. We have about a 47% tree canopy. That's pretty special. But it is tenuous. We should not take that for granted because Charlotte is growing very, very rapidly. It is one of the most rapidly growing cities. And with that, there are all kinds of demands that come with that, including housing for people. So we are losing canopy. Even though we have a good canopy, we are losing it rapidly. And so we did an assessment with the city of Charlotte in 2022. So we got those results actually at the end of last year. And so this is the number, 47.3% it was the 2022 assessment number for what our tree canopy is. And some people, I take for granted that I know what everyone knows what that means, a tree canopy. But what that means is if you're a bird and you're flying over, or you're a plane, you're flying over the city, and you're looking down and you want to see like how much land can you just see bare versus how much like tree cover can you see. The tree cover part is the canopy. So when we say 47% canopy cover, we're talking about that's how much is like covering the land if you're flying overhead. And we've lost a lot, actually. So if you have been around Charlotte for a while, you've seen a lot of changes. You've seen a lot of trees come down. And just since the 2018 urban tree canopy assessment, we've lost about 1,000 acres. That's not a visual that a lot of people can picture, like how much 1,000 acres is. So if you look at this slide, the part in red it's about 1,000 acres that is in the beltway there. And that's how much tree canopy that Charlotte lost since 2018. This is also just from the 2022 assessment, and we just keep growing more and more every day. So the next time we do the assessment, it's going to be lower. Our goal, though, in the city of Charlotte is a 50% tree canopy by 2050. So that's a pretty lofty goal. And you think that's just 3%. That's not very much. That can't be that hard to achieve. But it actually is, because we're fighting all of the trees coming down. So if we do nothing, status quo, keep doing what we're doing, in 2050, instead of having a 50% canopy cover, we're only going to have 40%. So we're losing it that rapidly. Next slide. Sorry. Is it okay? So how do we reach that goal? Well, we got to get busy. At Trees Charlotte, we're planting trees as fast as we can, but it's a pretty high number that we need to plant. So if we were to simply just maintain the 47% canopy cover, we would need to plant about 847,000 trees. And by the way, this was as of last year. This is last year's numbers. And if we want to, increase that to 50%, we actually need to plant over 1 million trees between now and then. So how much is that per year? That comes out to be 40,500 trees per year. That's a lot of trees. The good news is we have a lot of land where we can plant trees. We could have a canopy cover as high as 66%. That would be amazing. So that's how much land we have. We're probably not going to reach that, I gotta be honest. But that's how much land potential we have for that. So we have a lot of potential planting space. And the way that we came up with this is this number, this tree assessment canopy cover number, is through a software. It's called Tree Plotter, and a lot of cities are using this same methodology, the same software, and it's made by Planet Geo, and Tree Plotter is the name of the program. And you actually have access to it. So if you go into the city of Charlotte, you can get your way to this exact same information. So you can see this canopy data yourself. And Joy's got a slide she'll talk about later where we go into a little more granular where the trees are, because the 47% number, that's an average, and it's not the same everywhere. So if you go into Tree Plotter, you can look at, you can view your neighborhood, you can see what your canopy cover is in your neighborhood, and you can also kind of slide some scales around and play around and see what you would do to increase that, like how many trees that would be. So how are we losing trees? A lot of ways. One of them I mentioned was the growth that we're having in Charlotte. So this slide shows a new neighborhood being built. And it's pretty clear to see the 3 different pictures. So in the yellow circle there, that was a forest that then became a neighborhood. So the last slide that's on the right is the red. That's the delta. That's how much canopy was lost just in this neighborhood from clear cutting for a new neighborhood. And that happens. Another way it happens, sorry, it's okay, that's it, is redevelopment. So there are a lot of houses where people might decide they want to put in a driveway or a garage or just change something around, and that's called infill. That is just changing what's already on a property. And people think it's just one tree, it's one tree. I watch it happen in my neighborhood all the time. People just cut out just one tree. And so this slide shows the difference between a house that put in a driveway, and then actually in that particular property it was like 3 trees. So you could zoom in and you could actually see how many trees are being lost this way. But here's another one that people don't realize, and that's construction damage. This one's a little more insidious. So this is when someone thinks they're going to do some work on their property. Maybe they are going to widen the driveway or a sidewalk's going to go in, and they're not trying to cut down a tree. They want to leave the tree there, but they aren't protecting the root zone of this tree. So they're making cuts underground and doing damage to those tree roots. And then what will happen is it gets filled in, everything gets changed, and a few years later, after the tree has used up its stores of energy, you'll start to see this tree decline. And people will forget. They don't know what it is. They just know, I wonder what's happening to this tree. It's not doing so well. And it was the construction damage that was done years ago. So if you do have trees in your property and you're planning on doing anything, please, please, please contact a certified arborist before you do anything. And they can tell you the steps you need to take to save this tree so this doesn't happen. And then there are natural causes. So we have these aging trees in Charlotte. We have these gorgeous, wonderful trees. And the black and white photo actually shows, I I think it was Myers Park area or Dilworth, those trees were planted. So if you drive through that area, you see these trees all look like they're lining the street, they're so perfect. And they were planted there 100 years ago. So those trees are kind of reaching the end of their urban lifespan, and so those trees are in decline. We also have diseases and pests that come and can attack our trees. A lot of people I would suggest contacting a certified arborist if you want to save something, because you might need to take some steps to save a tree from, say, the emerald ash borer. But a lot of times when pests come, it's because the tree was already sick and it was already stressed. So that would be another good time to have an arborist come take a look at it. So we know extreme weather, that one picture shows a tree fallen. That happens a lot in Charlotte, unfortunately, and it is scary. And we want to make sure that the trees are healthy so that doesn't happen. And then the last little picture there just shows goats, because that's really fun. You might think those goats are doing something bad, but those goats are actually doing some good work there. Vines growing up a tree can be detrimental to the life of that tree. They can cover the leaves and add a lot of weight, and will eventually cause the decline of that tree. So if you have vines growing up your tree, you don't have to get goats, and there are other ways, but you should look up ways to get the vines off of your tree. So those can be ways that hurt your tree. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Joi to talk about the coverage.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Joi, I'm Tree Charlotte's Community Engagement Manager, and I'll kind of stand over here. As many of you know, the canopy coverage in Charlotte correlates with the income of areas. So this is looking at the census tract, household income, AMI, and then this is showing tree canopy coverage. The darker green is where it's well canopied versus not. Often that's following lines based on income. Oftentimes, that comes with racial identity as well. So just wanted to show that the correlation definitely exists, that oftentimes some of our less canopied areas are also our low wealth areas. And also tell you how Tree Charlotte is working in different communities to try to rectify that. Oh, sorry. I'll say this WFAE quote: if Charlotte wants a healthy tree canopy everywhere, it will have to cover all of its neighborhoods. That's really what we're trying to do with our newest program. Yes, please. So Tree Resilience, this is my baby. Tree Resilience and I have been together about 1.5 years. So this is our holistic tree care initiative to protect and enhance Charlotte's under-canopied and underserved neighborhoods while building community through trees. This is a 3-year-long initiative in various neighborhoods. It's very labor intensive, which is why Cameron is working with me on that, because we're going door to door, having conversations with homeowners about any fears that they have about their existing trees, and really having conversations about how we can support them. Because big trees can definitely be scary. But we have great arborists like Heather, Alex, and we work with Mark from ArborGuard, who really help us have those conversations with homeowners. And really part of that is just having conversations with people. Oftentimes, the trees are more healthy than people think. But we're able to do the work of Tree Resilience because of the generosity of our corporate sponsors. So we're currently in 3 neighborhoods. I'm looking to add 2 more, so if you know any that have strong neighborhood associations, I would love to talk with them, but doesn't necessarily have to be a strong neighborhood association. That's a little easier for us to work with. So let's talk about our neighborhoods for Tree Resilience. So we are currently in 3 neighborhoods. We're in the Bramblewood neighborhood and McCrory Heights neighborhood. And McCrory Heights isn't far from here, so excited to see that. So for under canopied, we're talking about neighborhoods that are 40% canopied or below. So Bramblewood is not doing too bad, 40%, but we know that Charlotte averages 47%. Then we also saw the median income. We know that for this Mecklenburg County, median income is about $73,000. So these neighborhoods, the residents there are making significantly less. You can kind of see in the pictures as well, particularly with McCrory Heights and Greenville. especially Greenville, they're surrounded by highways, right? And as Heather told us recently about having a low canopy and asthma rates, what are the health detriments that are occurring for residents as a result of being near these industrial complexes, by highway systems? And that's really what Tree Resilience is really here for, to have conversations with homeowners to make sure we're preserving their existing trees, and if necessary, taking down dead or diseased trees. We'll talk about that in a second, but also expanding their tree canopy. So having conversations with them about, based on your yard, we think we could plant this species, and having those conversations to help expand their tree canopy. With Ramblewood, you also kind of see right here in the picture, I put that on purpose. I live kind of near Ramblewood as well. It's near a rock quarry. So I can feel the rumblings and the quakes. They definitely can feel it a lot more because they're right next to it. I'm probably about 2 miles away and I can feel them sometimes. So what is that also doing to their air quality? Having those blasts constantly and the particulates going into the air. So we're really thankful for our tree masters who are helping us do this work, and our corporate sponsors as well, because this is a heavy lift for Tree Charlotte, and we had not had that capacity before to be able to do this, to have one-on-one conversations going in neighborhoods. But just wanted to share that information with you so you can see the neighborhoods that we're in, and it really kind of brings things to light why we're here.
Ramblewood Soccer Complex is 23 minutes from your location.
Sherry, okay. Sherry hurt you. I didn't even say her name. You're so crazy. Okay. So more about Tree Resilience. So this is a quote from our former executive director. Tree Resilience strives to expand and preserve the neighborhood's tree canopy and improve air quality for residents. And I really think that is really a great quote to talk about what Tree Resilience is. Let's talk about the components of Tree Resilience. So definitely tree education. I know I learned so much having those one-on-ones with our arborists, walking around. We do assessments with each of the homeowners if they want to know about their mature trees. We also do neighborhood tree walks. I'm not like a big science person, but I tell Heather she does a great job. I'm entertained and I'm learning great things. So definitely, if you're not signed up for our newsletter, definitely sign up and join us at our upcoming tree walk. But we have those in the neighborhoods or nearby the neighborhoods at like a park, so that we can talk about the positive benefits of the trees that are around them and really bringing trees to the forefront for people. We also do tree mapping. So that's a big kind of lift. So with the platform Heather was mentioning, Tree Plotter, we actually go around and plot the trees in the front yards for residents, so that they learn about the positive benefits of the trees that they're receiving. We also have tree plantings. So we do tree plantings in people's front yards. Here's a couple trees in McCrory Heights that we planted for residents. That also includes watering. So we water the trees the day of, and we water from April to October as well. So just a great opportunity to make sure we're ensuring that the trees survive. And that's something that Tree Charlotte has really built in. We want to make sure these trees last a long time, and we've built that into our budget to make sure that we're actually watering the trees. Tree care, as Heather said, ivy removal is one of our fun tasks. Hopefully some of our tree masters will join us when we have some of those upcoming. It's definitely a lot. We do pruning and provide free mulch for residents as well, because we want their existing trees that they have to thrive, and that mulch is so helpful with water retention. And mature canopy care. This is our most expensive component, our most time-consuming component. Any resident that lives in the 3 neighborhoods detailed, Ramblewood, Greenville, and McCrory Heights, those residents can receive a free consultation from our certified arborist to learn about the health of their existing trees. For certain residents that meet eligibility requirements and their trees are dead or diseased or hazardous, we can remove limbs and or trees. But that's based on the recommendation of our certified arborist. Based on what we saw earlier, we saw the income level for some of the residents. Taking care of mature trees can be a huge barrier and financial barrier for residents when you're making $35,000 We've taken care of some trees that were $10,000 before for removal, so we're really grateful to be able to provide that assistance for residents because they may not have been able to do that for themselves. So it's a really great opportunity for us to get into communities and build trust and have conversations with people. So this is actually data, our state of the canopy. So the neighborhoods we're in with our tree mapping data, we actually create a booklet so that they see what are the positive benefits you're getting for the trees. Instead of like these big things, we're talking about Charlotte, why? What are the benefits you're getting from your neighborhood? So you can see the potential annual benefits from Ramblewood based on their tree canopy, how much carbon is being intaked. I'll talk more about that. I'm not the science person. The air quality benefits, stormwater benefits. I think sometimes we don't realize how important some of this is, but as someone who has experienced flooding in my neighborhood, I've had 3 neighbors who their houses have flooded with water from recent storms. I mean, our community is not that old. It's a 20-minute townhome community. They begged us to have another tree planting. So my neighborhood will be having an additional tree planting of Tree Charlotte March 1st. I actually learned about Tree Charlotte, side note, 5 years ago with my neighborhood planting. So we planted 33 trees. I saw the job description and I said, hey, I would love to join you all. And that's how I became a staff person, by doing a community woods tree planting with Tree Charlotte. In my neighborhood, neighbors think so much of trees that we're planting more. And so much of that is that stormwater benefits. So seeing a number associated, I think is really helpful for people. So this is some of our tree zonings data as of September 1st. We don't have the data yet from Greenville because we're really only starting now. We did our consultations for mature canopy care in Greenville. That was a whole day endeavor. But this is some things just to learn more about. So we planted 46 trees in Ramblewood and in the area. We've had 48 volunteers and we've had engagements for mature canopy care. And those are our data as well for Heights. So it may not seem like a lot, but those are all conversations with homeowners, really providing them that assistance, particularly with the plantings. We have to make individual planting plans for every single resident. We have to talk to them about what type of tree they want, what type of tree species. So it's a lot, and we're very appreciative. So our call to action. There's so many ways that you can join us in this work. First, sign up for our Charlotte Without Trees campaign. We hope you will do that. Anyone can take this pledge, whether you're a homeowner, a renter, a student. There are more here. I just didn't include them all, but definitely scan the QR code and you can take the pledge. Or on your way out, definitely take the pledge as well, or mixing and mingling with us. So this is really to have all Charlotteans that they can be part of that 50 by 50 plan that the city has. In order for that to happen, it has to be a group effort. We know that most of the loss is occurring on private property. So everyone is really gonna have to make a step. We just can't assume the city is gonna do all the work. Partner with us, shameless plug for our community woods, which I help manage. If you know a place that needs 25 plus trees, please contact me, email, text, phone call, or just go straight and apply. So that's how my neighborhood got involved with Tree Charlotte. We will come out and do a planting plan based on your neighborhood, walking the site with you, an on-site consultation. We'll water the trees from April to October. It's very turnkey. I tell people it's the easiest event I ever did. Tree Charlotte did all the heavy lifting. Bring tree education to your organization. Heather, great, and can come out. If you know an organization, maybe a men's group or a women's group or any kind of organization, kids as well, Heather can come out and do education with you all. We'll be at Patagonia on the 18th doing some decorative pieces, and definitely follow us on Instagram or social media so you can stop by. I've been told there will be happy hour specials, so I think free happy hours. And volunteer at an event. We would love for you to volunteer at an upcoming event. We have events all through the week. We have one tomorrow. River Creek, so check out our calendar of events and you can come plant trees with us. As Allison mentioned, it's Giving Tuesday. We will need support that you can provide, but we know that giving is not always monetary. So that can include planned gifts, corporate gifts. February or March?
February, I think.
February at West Charlotte High School. So you can have a tree planted in memorial of someone or in honor of someone, and it's $125. So you can go to our website and learn about that. And as I mentioned, the trees are watered, so we're doing our best to make sure that they survive. This is our contact information, our new office on Stewart Andrew Boulevard near the huge CMS kind of headquarters. Our email address, you can always email me too. It's Joi, Joi, at treecharlotte.org. Our phone number and our other platforms, but we're really appreciative that you all allowed us to come and join you today, and we're open for questions. You're getting ready for the party. Thank you.
Okay, can you want to say anything, or are you ready for questions? Okay, you do have questions. Ken has our first question, and then Jackie, Carrie, and Nick.
I'm going to report on the poll. I've been a reporter and a chronicler of the Times going back more than 50 years in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. And Charlotte is extremely corporate friendly and community from all business corporate points of view. Trees are counterproductive to their bottom lines. Now, Charlotte has been nationally and proudly recognized nationally in two categories, the city of churches and the city of trees. We were noted as an ecumenical community of believers who truly embraced and supported the poor and least of these. We have seemingly lost our way in those areas. We were once called tree huggers, had an actually functioning tree commission that developers hated. Now the city hugs and embraces developers who are rapidly destroying tree canopy. Now we see trees fall, canopy diminished. So how do you view, and is it realistic by 2050? God, that's over a quarter century from now that we will progress to the 50% canopy that you seek.
Great question. Who's thinking that?
Y'all want to flip a coin?
I'll start, and Allison can fill in any gaps. That is truly an ambitious goal. We recognize that it is an ambitious goal. But as Joi mentioned, it is bigger than just what we can do, and it's actually even bigger than just what the city property is. I agree with you. We have a lot of development happening, and I would love for developers to prioritize the trees that are existing on the property. It is actually going to take all of us, because even on properties where we have managed to get, that people have managed to save the trees, it took a lot of community involvement to save those trees. So it's bigger than just us. So I would love for everyone to kind of pull together and recognize the value of trees and prioritize that. We do have a UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance, thank you, that went into effect last year that did put a little bit more emphasis on trees and saving our heritage trees, which are considered trees that are 30 inches in diameter. And so it is now, you have to have a permit to remove those trees with a quad. But I think it needs to be beyond individual trees. Actually, personally, I would like to save these little pockets of forest around town.
Thank you. That was a great question. You were a reporter because it was very thoughtfully worded. So Heather kind of said what I was gonna say. We do have the UDO that went into effect last year, it is one step to help protect the trees. One of the other things, I mean, Charlotte is gonna grow. I mean, 113 people move here every day. We projected to be a migration center for climate change migration as the sea levels rise. We are projected, there's heat maps that show how people are gonna migrate to Charlotte. So development, is gonna happen, I think, for us. And we do have some developers that partner with us and are very thoughtful about building development intentionally and trying to keep trees and green spaces. But it is kind of what Heather said, it's up to us and it's up to the community to kind of speak on behalf of the trees, to quote the Lorax from Dr. Seuss, to speak up and say how important it is for and to try to educate those developers on, this is what people, yes, people want, economical housing, but they also want to be able to walk outside and have a park or a tree, green space around them, or to be able to walk on a trail. Our greenways are fabulous. And we started that, I want to say, back in the 70s, with the intention, I think, of having over 300 miles of greenway. I can't remember the exact number, but it's under 100 if memory serves. I could be wrong though. But it really is just getting the community out there to use your voice and share. The UDO happened because enough community members stood up and said, this is important to us as we build. And we will continue to advocate for that, and we do, and try to, educate the developers on, this is good building practice going forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was surprised to see that McCrory Heights annual income is only $27,000, and I guess you can speak to that later. My question is a little bit off from this. Natural Christmas trees or artificial?
Oh. Heather, you're an arborist and a light.
I have seen so many pros and cons of both sides. I think natural Christmas trees actually can be great because they are grown on farms. That it is a crop, and they are intentionally grown with that purpose of being cut down and replanted. And I know that Christmas tree farms are constantly replanting as well as cutting down. You can argue that an artificial one is definitely saving that, but then it's plastic. And the problem I have with those is the pre-lit ones. They always stop being lit. The lights die, and then people want to throw it away, and then it's not lasting as long. So I guess if you do have an artificial one, and when the lights go out, just put some new lights on it, and don't throw it in the landfill.
And I'll talk about the McCrory Heights piece. I think that's a great question because I would think so too, having conversations with so many of the residents. So we use census tract data, so it may just be based on part of the neighborhood, but another area as well, based on the census tract. But I definitely agree that does seem low based on conversations and people that I know in the neighborhood as well. But I think it's just a census tract where it falls in there.
I have personal experience trying to save a tree. We built a house, and there was a tree that's about at least 150 years old. And the developer, we had a plan to save, protect the tree, and the developer signed off on it and then proceeded to violate it.
Oh, wow.
But we talked to an arborist, and they said, by industry standards, we need to recommend that you remove the tree. Wow. Well, it's a deodar cedar, and it's enormous. So what they had to do was, they said, remove half of the mass of the tree, half of the mass, and 1/3 of the height. And this tree is thriving. It's beautiful. We call her Theodora. Cedar. So it's so worth it. Thank you for your work. I've planted your trees. I'm wondering where your money comes from. I know you have corporate sponsors, but where does your money come from? And how do you define Charlotte as the tree canopy?
Thank you, and thank you for saving that tree. I think I'm not an arborist, but I have sat through a couple of trainings since working here, and I've heard Heather and Mark from Arbor Guide talk about you can do that. You can prune down the tree and thin it out and still save it. It's not always just a lost cause. Funding, we get our funding, diversifying funding is very important for nonprofits. So we have corporate sponsors, we have individual donors, we have grants that we apply for every year through corporate sponsors. We also apply for a grant through the city of Charlotte as well, and the county. So we get our funding from multiple ways. You can look online and it kind of breaks down the percentages of our funding. I don't know all of it off the top of my head, but it definitely is, using the whole community and the assets we have to get our funding from various sources. And what was the other part of your question? I'm sorry.
Define the city of Charlotte.
Oh, the city of Charlotte. So that is, currently we plant within the Charlotte city limits. But we have started branching out into Pineville, Matthews, and we're potentially looking at branching out into Huntersville. But when Trees Charlotte was started in its inception, it was within the Charlotte city limits. But as we grow and Charlotte grows, we are looking to expand out because we have found, Joi and I were actually talking about another tree resilience neighborhood the other day, and we found neighborhoods that are, within Mecklenburg County, but maybe not quite in the city limits that that could use some tree love.
Okay, I have the next question. Joi, I don't know if you remember me, but you've done work with Ron Ross on the corridor, and I've been to some of your presentations. I have a tree in my yard that, my neighbor's tree fell during a storm. A storm knocked the tree down, so an arborist came out to look at the tree before they cleared it off. And I had them to come over to my house because I have this huge, huge tree. We have a lot of trees in my neighborhood. And he told me that my tree was over 200 years old.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't believe it. How long do trees live?
That's a Heather question.
It depends on the tree, for sure, but trees can live hundreds and hundreds of years. It is not unusual for an oak to live 200, 300, 400 years even. So we have trees in this country that have seen more history than any of us ever will. So yes, it is possible.
Okay.
All right, good morning. You alluded to the UDO a little earlier. And being on the UDO board, one of the things I learned is that we actually do have a division that's dedicated to protecting trees, and when developments or UDO variances come across our faces, we have to consider the damage or what it's going to do. First of all, do you work with that department or division of the city that aims to protect trees? And if so, how closely do you work with them, and what's that relationship like?
Well, we aren't the city, so we aren't part of it, but we definitely know the urban forestry department, and we work with them quite a bit, actually. So, we would refer people to urban forestry quite often if there's any question regarding the UDO. Did I answer that question?
So that's the most you work with, work on a day-to-day basis?
No, not because we are a nonprofit, but we're definitely familiar with them and work with them. I would actually like to add something else about the whole trees though. I know that in some Native American communities, they will refer to trees as their elders. And consult them as their elders because they have lived longer than many people. So
Wow.
something to respect the old trees.
Okay, so I need to be a tree hugger out there.
I'm working on it. I'm working on turning all of you into tree huggers.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like for you to be brutally and truthfully honest, but on a scale of 1 to 10. It's been said that all politics are local. So on that scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, how do you rate the pro-tree political climate in Charlotte?
Oh, what a fun question. Maybe, so I guess if we're talking about like city council and county commissioners, I will say we have, numerous ones that, have attended our events and support, the work we do and the work Tree Charlotte does. I'll also say just from another nonprofit I worked with as well before, which was environmental, more than, half, and on both sides of the aisle, we're supportive of the work that we're, of the sustainability work that the environmental nonprofits are doing in Charlotte. In my opinion, sustainability and environment should be a nonpartisan issue because it affects everyone, no matter what side of the aisle you fall on. And we try to, keep that in our forefront when we're doing the work that we're doing. But in my experience with Charlotte, the political climate has been very pro, trees, sustainability, multimodal transportation, making things, more sustainable for our community. Because I think it does, it affects everyone and everyone has, I don't like this phrase, but everyone has skin in the game for it. So I feel like, the city council and the county commissioners are very mindful of the work that we're trying to do and being supportive.
Okay. Natalie.
It's not my question, but I will comment on the question he just asked. Because over the years, I have asked city council as well as county commission, why isn't the ordinance enforced that says builders cannot clear the land? And I have never got an answer that meant any more than just a shrug. So I'm not sure how committed they are because the ordinance has been in existence forever, but nobody has ever tried to enforce it. But my question has to do with, and this is because I'm a New Yorker. I moved here 20 years ago. Trees didn't fall in New York the way they do here. Now again, you mentioned oak. We had mostly oaks and elms and that type of thing. But we had dirt as opposed to clay. And I'm curious, is that why so many trees fall? Is it the type of trees, or is it because the clay doesn't hold them as well as dirt?
I think that's a neat question. That's a very good question. And you're asking, why are we losing trees? And it's something I ponder a lot. And the reality is there are many reasons. It's not a single reason. We do have some very strong storms and things will be blowing. I think we probably have always had some strong storms. They're happening maybe more often. And there might be some wind patterns that are happening. Some of it is trees are aging. So our urban trees, a lot of them were planted intentionally around the same time. And while trees can live for hundreds of years, urban trees face a lot more stresses than a tree in a forest does. And so they don't live as long as they could if they were in a forest. I think there are probably other changes happening as well. I don't think it's not a matter of clay versus different soil types. We have forests around here that trees are doing just fine. They're just fine. And our soil in the Piedmont is this clay. And so that's common. We have a lot of trees that live in that. But that's different than what we're finding in this urban landscape that is very harsh. And when you do a lot of development and scrape and do things to these trees, you're impacting more than just the trees in that area. And so I suspect that it's having an impact, even just not even a single developer, but just all of the development. We're losing a little bit of that soil sponge, and it's in healthier soil, and so I think that is having an impact. But I don't think anyone knows the exact answer. There's no single answer.
I recently read a fascinating book called Overstory. Are you familiar with it? It's a Pulitzer Prize winning book by Richard Powers, and it talks about trees and their communication with each other, and it's really interesting. I recommend it. My question is, there's a tree that I'm a little concerned about. We're not part of Tree Zillions, but can you guys come out and take a look at this tree? How do we?
Well, we do get a lot of requests. I try to work in when I can, and we'll try to offer look at some trees, especially for maybe a nonprofit or some organization. It's hard to get all the requests in. I can definitely recommend, if you ever have a question, to contact a certified arborist. Be aware of the person that just shows up at your house and says, I can take care of that for you. Because they may not always be the most scrupulous, and they may not have the tree's best interest in heart. So if you contact a certified arborist, they have been trained, and every certified arborist that I've met loves trees and will do everything possible to save the tree. And there is a difference, so ask for someone's credentials.
Can you speak to the work that Tree Charlotte has done with the faith houses in Charlotte?
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Thanks. So we've done quite a few plantings with different houses of faith as part of our Community Woods program. Those are some of our bigger plantings. We've also done orchards with many houses of faith. Maybe about 5 years ago, some about 10 years ago. So we are exploring opportunities to go back and look at those orchards and provide them support. So we have applied for grants to do that. But similar to Tree Zillions, those different orchards, we assessed all of them this summer. So we're trying to figure out like plans. We'd have to create plans for each individual orchard because each orchard has a different needs. So some we're thinking, wow, y'all may need a whole irrigation system in order to create a sustainable orchard. Or it may be, we need to partner with Carolina Farm Trust or a different organization to make sure that you're pruning the tree correctly, because pruning a fruit tree is so much different than like a regular tree that Tree Charlotte provides. So part of that is just for us exposure. Orchards have not been our jam before. Mostly we're just canopy builders or ornamental trees. So that was something new that we did, but that is something that we are committed to going back and assessing and seeing how we can assist. But financially right now, I think we're a little constrained with doing some of the more expensive projects with those houses of faith, with the orchard projects. But any house of faith, we would definitely love to do additional tree plantings to provide that support as well. But and hopefully more information to come. We're working with a faith-based organization out of DC, a national organization, to do smaller tree plantings with different houses of faith. Because we know 25 trees can be a lot, 25 plus trees can be a lot, and not all congregations can put that many trees on their property. So we are looking to do smaller tree plantings with select houses of faith, and that organization will be in charge of the community engagement, and we would be in charge of providing those trees and education. But hopefully we'll have some news about that. We just applied with a grant with them maybe about 3 weeks ago.
My church has 145.
Of our trees? Oh wow. What church is that?
Space CNA.
Space CNA.
Oh, okay. Hidden Valley.
Was that?
In Hidden Valley.
We did an orchard with you all. I remember that. We were there 2.5 years ago. That was my first planting actually. As a staff member, we went back and did like a tree care. So we did mulching with the Atrium volunteers. This guy got fire ants on him. Thankfully he was a doctor, so he can handle it.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, so for the last at least 15 or 20 years, I've been driving down Sunset. And there were a lot of trees when I started driving down Sunset. And now it's so much, so much development that's occurring down Sunset. And I'm talking about from Bateswood Road to 485. There's a lot going on. So the trees are just, they're just, you know, they're breaking them down and building. Help me to understand, what is the process for that to take place, for them to just take those trees down and start building? And I just like to get a simple way of how this is handled in cities and towns and areas like that, because those trees have been there for years. I've been in Charlotte most of my adult life, and now the development is just taking up all the trees down. So what is the process for the builders to go in and take these trees down and start building? Just a little story for me, just like, talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Help me understand that.
I know some of it too, but okay.
Gary may know the most.
So, yeah, he may, yeah. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. So, you know, part of it has to do, is it on public land or private property? So if a developer, it's their property, until the UDO went into effect, I don't believe there were, you know, if it's your property, you can do what you want with it. When the UDO went into effect, we do have the heritage trees, which you can speak to more about the size that it has to be and the height and all of that to be deemed a heritage tree. So it could be, depending on what year the developer came in and took down the trees, you know, was it before the UDO? Since you said you've been looking for 25 years, it probably was. So if it's, you know, if they own the property, it's up to them, you know, how they want to take them down and what they want to do with that property. Now, because of the UDO, if it is a heritage tree, there are steps in place where they can't just take it down. They have to go through and get a permit, and they have to prove, right, that the trees, for the heritage trees, yeah, from the Urban Forest Department. But if it's not a heritage tree, I don't think there's any. The tree save, yeah, I'll let you speak to that.
There is also another part of that, and again, I don't know if this just went into effect with the UDO or not, but there is a tree save requirement. When, I don't know what the percentage is, but if a developer is going to clear more than the amount that they're allowed, they either have to save it on that property, which sometimes they clearly don't. I mean, you can see and drive by and see they scrape it, so that's not the case. That they have to put in money towards a fund that then goes to purchase land and plant the equivalent amount of trees in a different part of Charlotte. And so that is happening right now, I know, where there is a tree save area where they're trying to offset where those trees have been cleared. I don't know a lot of details on it, but I know they are trying to offset that.
Joy, did you have anything to say, Gary?
Y'all were better. Do you tell us?
No, I mean, you were spot on. The only thing I would add is, to their point, in lieu of the UDO, a lot of times when folks are against a development, they're using that loophole, per se, with the Urban Ministry Department to stop or prevent that development. Because when we hear that case as a UDO board, we have to confer with that division or that department with the city to see, okay, is this a protected tree? Because if it is a protected tree, now that developer, they're not supposed to, as they say, some might just bypass it and just go through it. But what it is a lot of times in those cases, people are not objecting. There are no objections. But when there are people who are objecting to a certain development, they'll use that as a loophole to prevent that developer or hold that developer up and the developer would have to find loopholes to get around it. We dealt with somebody trying to expand their driveway, and it would have knocked down, or would have cut down a tree, or it was in a radius of where that tree was, and so it was holding up that particular variance. So it's definitely a loophole that's now considered, or a thing that's considered. I shouldn't call it a loophole, but it's a thing that's not considered when looking at developers, particularly in residential neighborhoods. Commercial is I believe it's a little easier, particularly because that land is already zoned for that particular development. But when you're talking about residential makeovers, doing something with the driveway, trying to expand a home, etc., that can be a preventable measure.
And there are fines, I understand. So if they do not follow the proper permitting process, I believe there are fines. But this gets back to the community involvement, like you said, so if it's contested, that may be a guess.
I know you have a question. I just watch you walking around trying to get a microphone.
No, I'm actually pessimistic. Okay, sorry. Y'all were mentioning the ages of trees. I feel like I've only seen an age determined when the tree was cut down. How do you determine how old a tree is, like, while still preserving it? And then, like, when is a good time to, y'all talking about orchards, when is a good time to plant? I'm trying to put a plum tree in the yard, like, when do I plant this tree?
Answer 8 questions, I can answer that. Regarding the age of the tree, that one's a little harder. The only definitive way is after it's cut down. That's not a great way. Please don't cut down a tree just to count its rings. But there are some estimates that you can do. There are some calculators that we know that some species grow faster than others, so we can know what species it is, and we can actually put in, you can look online, you can find some little factors where you multiply, you measure the tree, you know what species it is, and then you can estimate the age. There's other records, the history of the site can help too. So we know, Shay, you know this, even from the cemetery, that you can tell by historical records maybe how old a tree is, so that's one way, but it's a little bit harder, but knowing the species and maybe getting an arborist involved can help. Regarding planting, we got you. So if the best time to plant a tree is now, actually, and I don't mean that just from a big broad standpoint. I mean the fall and the winter are really great times to plant. So in Charlotte, in this area, the ground doesn't freeze permanently like it would be maybe in New York, where you'd have to wait for it to thaw. So don't plant a tree in the spring here, because we're about to enter the hot summer months with the drought. Everyone wants to plant trees, and Arbor Day and Earth Day, that's when everyone wants to get outside and plant trees. That's not the best time to plant them here. So the best time is fall, winter, even getting into kind of early spring when it's still cold, when trees are dormant is the best time, because then those trees can get in there and those roots can get established before the droughts start in the summertime.
Okay, Carlenia and then Shay.
Good morning. My question, and I think I mentioned it to Mary, we were talking about cutting trees down. I know you talked about preserving trees, but we did have a situation with one of our founders, Sarah Stevenson, elderly lady who was trying to get trees cut down in her yard. So is there anything that you do for senior citizens or individuals as far as, I know you say you cut down diseased trees, but these are trees that might be gonna fall on your house or whatever. So do you have any type of grant or discount for helping seniors?
So
I
right
don't know
now,
my kids laughing because that's a good question.
no, we still ask that question.
Trees are very expensive. You asked the question, well, I'm sorry, I wasn't here, kid.
No, we got
Oh.
to.
Oh, okay.
You can start.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So we always recommend first that people have the trees assessed by a certified arborist, just to learn the health of the tree. Pardon? Oh, yeah, we always recommend that people have a track certified arborist assess the tree. So I know Arbor Guard is usually my go-to for my neighborhood, and also kind of with Tree Charlotte with our tree resilience neighborhoods. So they do free assessments. So I'd always recommend working with an arborist that will do a free assessment, so you learn about the health of the tree. Does it need to be cut down? Oftentimes, we're learning that people actually, the tree is healthy. Mark is usually telling them, your tree is gonna probably outlast all of us. Exceptions happen generally, but currently tree resilience only does mature canopy care with dead or diseased trees and limbs or hazardous trees and limbs in our tree resilience neighborhood. We don't have the funding right now or the capacity to do that on a large scale for the city of Charlotte, but the city does have a canopy care program that we recently learned about. So if you go to their website, City of Charlotte Canopy Care, they do have an application out there that provides assistance to all residents of the City of Charlotte based on AMI, so being below 80% annual median income. So I mean, that's definitely something to check out. A lot of people may not know that, so definitely check out their website to see that. The funding is available.
Yeah, I was gonna mention the money that the city has to do that, but it is based on tree equity scores and environmental justice scores and the AMI. Joy and I actually had this conversation the other day, and ideally we would love to do something like that, to help seniors, who are on fixed incomes age in place in their homes. And you're right, tree care is extremely expensive, especially mature tree care. And for us, because we are a staff of 9 and we're a nonprofit, so we definitely run on a tight budget, it would be all about being able to get grant money to do that. But that is something, she and I had this conversation the other day, because I've actually had in the past few weeks several seniors reach out and ask about that. Unfortunately, we don't currently have that, but we do recommend the arborists that we work with, Mark from Arbor Guard and that team. And I know they come out pretty quickly, and we have talked to them about potentially trying to partner and do something like that if we could get funding somehow to make that happen. So just know we are thinking about it and trying to make something happen.
Okay, our last 2 questions come from Shay and Ken. Our final 2. Shay.
I'll try to make it quick. I'm not really calling this company out, but I just know where they're located and the amount of land that they own. But a company like Martin Marietta, is that a group that you can approach to use that land, number one, to grow trees, also to find funding for other areas that they may be affecting with the tremendous amount of work they do in the area, and also the fact that they're located on the west side there, where we know all of the tree canopy is being destroyed, where all the construction is, where all the pollution is, where all the problems that come from these kind of things exist immediately in that area. Is that the type of solution that would help Tree Charlotte?
None of us are familiar with that company.
What do they do?
They're literally on the corner of Sunset.
Sunset
and Beatty's Ford, basically. They cover an area like if you, the Y, McCrory Y, if you took that all the way to Sunset and then made a left, that's all Martin Marietta. Almost all of it.
And what do they do?
They're quarry.
Oh, a quarry. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with it. So,
They got a ton of money.
they have a ton of money? Welcome that.
They got a lot of problems.
That's good to know. So that's definitely, yes, someone we could reach out to. Again, I just started in September, but learning about the organization and looking at other tree organizations like Trees Atlanta, especially. They've been around since 1985. They partner with the city. They work in I think it was Atlanta, 4 counties now. I can't remember. They have like a whole education center. They have a tree yard where they store their trees. They plant their trees. They're starting a nursery. We would love to grow and be something like that in the future. And we are looking, 3 to 5 years out to try to find a facility for us. to be able to house our trees. So yeah, absolutely open to having conversations.
Ron knows this guy.
Yeah, we may tag you and Ron in.
Yeah, if you know them, an introduction would be
Not me,
fabulous.
Ron Ross.
Yeah, I have his number. I'll call him. So I know we're working with Vulcan, which is across the street from Bramblewood. And I'm a big fan of that. If you're taking from our community, make sure you're also giving to people in the community. So
yeah.
Oh, okay. This is the last question, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll be brief. I'm a firm believer in reincarnation, and in the fuel industry now, there are ecologically friendly burials.
Yes.
And so my question is, if I do one of them ecologically safe burials, and they bury me next to a tree that's going to probably grow to be 400 years old, I'd like to be 400 years old. Can y'all bury me next to a tree?
I love this idea, and I tell this to my kids as well. I said, y'all are gonna have to haul me out in the woods and find a tree, and I'll get my energy back to the earth that way. So I love this idea, and there are companies that do this. So I love that you're thinking about that.
Yeah.
Ken, what it is that.
But yeah, we don't do that.
They mulch you up and spread you out. You know what I mean? They mulch you up.
I ain't gonna feel it.
And you look like dirt, and they'll spread you out. It's not like cremating, it's mulching the person. So,
It'd be slow, but no, we're not gonna get into that. Charlotte, just letting you know.
We don't have to pay for that.
Okay, thank you, ladies. This has been wonderful. There's a couple of things that we're gonna. There's a couple of things we need to do. One, we need a birthday song because we have a birthday.
Like an old man river.
And just a happy birthday to you. Okay. So we need to do that, and we need to take announcements, and then I have an announcement.
All right.
Okay.
Happy birthday to Sarah Lee.
Woo!
And now we'll take announcements.
Yes, announcements. Did anyone have an announcement? Ken has one. And I have one.
Go Lions, the mighty C West Charlotte Lions won last week again. And they will go to Greensboro this week to play Dudley in the state high school football championship series. So,
Go team.
Okay, speaking of West Charlotte, we are in conversation with the superintendent and her staff. We would like to actually they would like to host the Tuesday Forum on location at West Charlotte. And we're planning for that for next Tuesday, but anything can happen. You know how schools are. So please watch your Steve's email about the location because we may be right back here, okay? So please look at his email on Sunday. I think he sends it out on Sunday or Monday. Please check that. You might want to check it on Sunday and Monday, okay? To let you know. We're going to be engaging the students in a discussion of civic responsibility. And this is going to be an important topic because of all that we've experienced in civic responsibility with our young people. So just keep an eye out on that email so that you know where to go next Tuesday. Okay. If you have not registered as a volunteer for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, it would be great if you could do that, because when you sign in, when you come in, you have to sign in, and it makes it a lot easier. Okay. So any other announcements? You have one?
Yeah, sorry, shameless plug. I don't know if you all are familiar with one of Charlotte's Black-owned farms, Deep Roots Farms.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Deep Roots Farms is hosting a farm-to-table dinner this Sunday featuring 2 Black chefs. So just wanted to do that shameless plug. I'll send you the link. I mean, it is a little fee, but of course the proceeds do go back to the Black farm. So I went to one of the ones that had, the last one that they had in the winter, just wanted to throw that. We had another one coming up this Sunday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here goes. Okay, Shay has an announcement.
I'll have the microphone now, come on. I just wanted to let everyone know, you're welcome to come out to Cedar Grove December 12th. We're having a cleanup in preparation for our Wreaths Across America ceremony, honoring the veterans of Cedar Grove, which is going to be on December 14th. We'd love everyone to come out and have a great time.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other announcements, we are concluding our meeting for this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.